Hey everybody. I am going to do my best at a screencastified close reading of Phillis Wheatley's To His Excellency General Washington. I'd hoped to go over this piece with you really line by line um, last week on Friday, but as I was asked to depart immediately, we didn't get a chance to connect. And because of that, I also did not grab my annotated copy. I just grabbed everything I could, and that's something I forgot to bring. So I'm going to do my best to read through this and kind of give you the notes that I had jotted down off of memory, but I'll certainly go through the stuff that I think you really ought to know. Um, so this is an interesting piece for a number of reasons. First of all, the author herself, Wheatley. Um, Remember, we read the other piece from her on being brought from Africa to America. Remember that she was a slave, right? She was brought from Africa to America. So I think what's unique about this piece is the fact that, much like on being brought from Africa to America, she's really praising these colonizers, especially, as the title suggests, General Washington, who she's thanking for his many great deeds. And what's really kind of fascinating about this piece, I think, is that she's arguing for freedom, but not freedom of slavery. She's arguing for freedom from British rule. She's making the case that America needs to be free. So I think that is an interesting element of this text. Um, Much like we said in class, it's also pretty telling of Wheatley that she's both a woman and a black enslaved woman who's writing this piece, speaking to General Washington, who will become president, um, and in arguing that we are the greatest nation, one who is really backed by God, that everything we do is justified by God, and that we really need not have any fear because we have God on our backing us. So one thing to note is that this is written with an iambic couplet form. It has an A B B C C rhyme scheme, and that almost gives it sort of like a marching type of sound if read aloud. Celestial choir enthroned in realms of light, Columbia's scenes of toils I write. So listen to that, where it has this marching sound, and in fact, it was actually read aloud as troops would march. This became so popular that generals and generals would read it to their soldiers prior to marching off into battle. So it became quite popular in its time. It's sort of a piece to rally the troops, to inspire them before sending them off to die. It's chock full of allusions, and it has a lot of connections to Greek mythology, and actually, which showcase her belief that we are something otherworldly, that we have the power of gods behind us. I am hoping that you've looked at that slideshow that I posted to Canvas, the one that showcases the different themes that are present in this piece. If you haven't done that yet, after the screencastify, why don't you take a look, as I think it will add additional information that can be helpful. Um, so in a minute, I'm going to read. I thought there was one other thing I wanted to tell you. I can't find it. So why don't we start with the read? Celestial choir, enthroned in realms of light, Columbia's scenes of glorious toils I write. What's worthy of note in these first two lines, in 1 and 2, is that Wheatley is really making an allusion to some of the Greek epics. This would be her version of a calling to the muse. If you think back to the Odyssey, that's how these epics would have started, by invoking the great muses. Great muse, tell us the wonderful story of blah 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 blah. That's what she's sort of doing here. It's a play on a call to the muses, celestial choirs, right? she's saying that I'm writing on Columbia's scenes of toils. And this is the goddess Columbia. That's something that is on that slideshow that I posted to Canvas, that every nation had its own god or goddess, most of them goddesses. And it was a figure that was a symbol of the nation, and it represented, that nation's power. And they would be on different forms of art is how the nation would be depicted. Um, Americans or colonials of the time would have been really familiar with Columbia. It would be We don't see those so much today. It would be similar to something like Lady Liberty or Uncle Sam, a character who personifies the nation, and with that personification or with that character, you have additional baggage. Different meanings behind it. So the goddess Columbia she was beautiful and she was strong. She was always carrying a sword and shield with her, so we knew that she was a warrior. Um, that she was courageous, brave, strong, daring, um, and she would lead the fight. So that's who Wheatley begins writing about. While freedom's cause her anxious breast alarms, she flashes dreadful and refulgent arms. See Mother Earth her offspring's fate bemoan, and nations gaze at scenes before unknown. See the bright beams of heaven's revolving light, involved in sorrows and the veil of night. What Wheatley does in these lines, in lines 3 through 8, she suggests that really the entire world is watching this moment, that Mother Earth, and that we are um, the offspring of Earth, is awaiting this great battle, that the nations around us are all gazing at this battle between what will be America and Great Britain. And that even heaven is involved in this, watching down on us, that everyone and everything is invested in this battle. So it shows that the battles that are about to become this fight for independence it has set the entire world and even heaven at a standstill as they await the outcome. In the next stanza, the goddess comes, she moves divinely fair, olive and laurel binds her golden hair. Wherever shines the native of the skies, unnumbered charms and recent graces rise. Here she's describing the goddess Columbia, and if you look to the Canvas slideshow, these descriptions of her will line up with how she was depicted in art in lines 9 and 10. In 11 and 12, this is where she makes something of a rationalist claim. This is what I was going to tell you guys before. Another thing that's unique about this piece is that if you date it, it certainly falls within the colonial and rationalist period. But there's also elements of romanticism in it. But to speak to the rationalism, she's certainly trying to make claims. She's trying to rationalize why America will win this war. She uses what she knows to support her claims, right? She's religious. She's looking to what she knows of the past, and she's arguing that there's no reason why America would lose this battle. We're backed by God. We're backed by the goddess Columbia, right? Um, so in that element, in that way, um, this sort of is a rationalist claim that wherever the goddess Columbia goes, great things happen. There's unnumbered charms. There's graces that follow her. So we have her on our side for this battle. The outcome's going to be great. So in a way, this is a rationalist claim. But at the same time, this is a romantic piece. And we won't talk so much about the romanticism in this screencastify or in this reading, but I'd like for you to use that lens once we've read through romanticism and try to apply some of those concepts. A little hint is look at how she describes war and whether or not this is a realistic depiction of war, or if it is in fact a romanticized one. In the next line, she again invokes the muse on line, I think that's 13. Yeah, 13. Muse, bow propitious, while my pen relates how pour her armies through 1,000 gates, as when Aeolus heaven's fair face deforms, enwrapped in tempest and a night of storms. Astonished ocean feels the wild uproar, the refluent surges beat the sounding shore. So stop there for a moment. Here she's describing how America's armies will pour through the gates. And she makes reference to Aeolus, who is the god of wind, god of power, saying that we are a mighty force, a force to be reckoned with, like the most powerful storm that can destroy, like the most powerful ocean waves that crash down. That's what our army is like. We are going to be a force that is unstoppable, that will pour through the gates and smash any enemy that we encounter. Or think as leaves in autumn's golden rain, such and so many moves the warrior's train. In bright array they seek the work of war, where the high unfurled the ensign waves in air. Shall I to Washington their praise recite? Enough thou know'st them in the fields of fight. Thee first in peace and honors we demand, the grace and glory of thy martial band. Famed for thy valor, for thy virtues more, hear every tongue thy guardian aid implore. Now, this is really the first time that she's referencing Washington, and she references him and she gives him all the praise that, you want me to talk about why Washington is great? Well, how do I even start? Right? He's number one in peace and honors. He has grace and glory. His soldiers love him. He's famed for his valor, but even more so for his virtues. He's virtuous. Um, Everything about this man is wonderful and wondrous, Wheatley would say. 1 century since, or excuse me, 1 century scarce performed its destined round when Gallic powers Columbia's fury found. This is a direct reference to the Pilgrims arriving at Plymouth Rock, saying it's been 100 years since our ancestors arrived to this land. What better time than now um, than to become our own nation? And so may you, whoever dares disgrace the land of freedom's heaven defended race. Once again, reiterates this claim that we are backed by heaven. This is a connection to like manifest destiny, where it's God's plan for us to be all powerful, to conquer anyone who opposes us, to spread from east to west, cover the entire nation, and to make it ours. We are heaven's defended race. Fixed are the eyes of nations on the scales, for in their hopes Columbia's arm prevails. She again makes the claim that the nations around the world are waiting, watching, but also rooting for us. They want us to win. Anon, Britannia droops the pensive head, while round increase the rising hills of dead. Ah, cruel blindness to Columbia's state, lament thy thirst of boundless power, too late. So this is where Wheatley sort of takes a dig at Great Britain. Britannia would have been their version of Columbia, right? That's their goddess who represents the nation. And it's saying that even their goddess, Britannia, puts her head down in shame. Why is that? Well, because first of all, she's aware that they're going to lose the war, but also it speaks to the rising hills of dead and their thirst of boundless power. That's suggesting that their colonialism, their urge for conquest to take over nations and make them their own, is something that shouldn't be praised. In fact, it's something that they should be ashamed of, and that the rest of the nation is sick. Rest of the nations and the rest of the world is sick of it, and that it's finally time for a country to stand up to them and reclaim what's rightfully theirs. Proceed, great chief, with virtue on thy side. Thy every action let the goddess guide. A crown, a mansion, and a throne that shine, with gold unfading, Washington, be thine. So to close, Um, Wheatley ends by again praising Washington, saying that, look, guys, even though it looks as though we're outnumbered, even though everyone has said that there's no chance that America can win this war, just wait and see, because you have God on your side and the heavens on your side. You have the goddess Columbia on your side. You can't lose. And if that's not enough, you have the greatest general ever to have lived. He's a great chief who's guided by virtue. He's kind, he's brave, he's courageous, he's brilliant. He will lead you to victory. And what's really unique is how she ends this piece, saying that once America wins the war, becomes independent in its own nation, what will be waiting for General Washington? A crown, a mansion, and a throne. So it's interesting to see how Wheatley viewed this man and what she thought may become of him, that he would become the king of America. So, folks, that's Wheatley's to His Excellency General Washington. I hope that this can help you understand the piece. And if you have any questions, be sure that you ask. I'm going to try to make a few more of these in the days to come. So I'll see you soon, or you'll hear me soon. Bye, guys.